Mars in Virgo has a lot in common with Mars in Gemini, because Gemini is also owned by Mercury. But the difference is here, now Mars is in an Earth sign. So that's going to bring up some slight differences. But let's go through the process that we always go through with every planet and every sign, where we look for where the planet and the sign are on the same page. And we also look for where the planet and the sign have opposite opinions about things. So in this case, we're going to find 3 important instances where Mars and Virgo do not get along, they do not agree. But we're going to find one important case where they do. So the first thing that I want to bring up is that Mars is the planet of passion, and Virgo is the sign of prudence. Why is Mars the planet of passion? Because passion is the way that things get started. And getting something started is the nature of masculinity, as in masculinity initiates a pregnancy. And Mars fundamentally is the planet that signifies everything masculine. So Mars is the passion planet, but Virgo, it's the prudence sign. Why? Because Virgo, it belongs to Mercury, which is the planet of intellect, and it's an earth sign. So it's going to be a patient intellect that pays attention to detail. So it's going to pay detail and have patience and prudence. So when you get Mars in Virgo, you're getting a clash between the agent of passion is in the environment of prudence. So it's not really going to be able to function effectively. And what you expect is some kind of difficulty will arise in the native on this theme, prudence versus passion. So one of the things that I could say to give it more form or make it more clear, here you'll get a person who's pretty impatient, usually. They will have passions, and they want those passions fulfilled now. Or they just don't get inspired at all. You'll find that they have strong desires because the passion planet is not making use of the prudence resources. It doesn't care for the prudence resources. So they'll be having strong desires that don't really have forethought or caution to them. And this is really the next thing we need to talk about. The next thing we want to talk about when Mars is in Virgo is that Mars is the planet of courage and Virgo is the sign of caution. So again, caution is the same thing as prudence, but what we want to bring out here is Mars is both passion and courage because it's representing masculinity. Masculinity has strength. Strength infers courage. So you have the planet of courage in an environment of caution. So you have it's like a courageous person being in a cautious area. They're going to kind of break things like a bull in a china shop. So what you would expect in a native with Mars and Virgo is that they will be unusually fearless and fearful, depending on the situation. They'll oscillate between having no fear, like a fool rushing in where an angel would fear to tread, or they have lots of fear. They're afraid for no real reason. And the other thing about caution versus courage is they don't tend to be particularly good at thinking 3 steps ahead. They think very well and clear and focus on now, but they don't think about tomorrow very much. So they're the type of person that lives in the moment. The third thing to bring out about the nature of Mars and Virgo, and this is, we're discussing the baseline nature. The baseline nature will be modified depending on the conditions Mars finds itself in Virgo, as well as the conditions of the rest of the chart. But the baseline thing about Mars and Virgo is that Mars is the planet of competition, and Virgo is the sign of cooperation. So again, why is Mars competition? Because its competition is an aspect of strength, and strength is the aspect of masculinity. So Mars representing masculinity represents competition. Virgo, why is Virgo cooperation? because it's organizational. Virgo is Mercury's female sign. So it's going to try to organize things into groups and teams. And this is why Virgo is a very good manager, organizer, kind of democratic type of leader. So you get the planet of competition coming into the environment of cooperation. It's going to produce some kind of fumbles and mess ups in this area of life, the area of competition and cooperation. So you would find this native competing with friends, competing at unnecessary times, cooperating at unnecessary times. So there's kind of like a challenge here with making friends and keeping them, because one tends to put them at a distance or make them into enemies. This also, all of these things are basically also the case with Mars and Gemini. But because Gemini is masculine and air, Mars is avoiding difficulty more easily in Gemini. So they don't have quite the same negativity to them. Whereas in Virgo, Mars is quite challenged by the femininity of Virgo and the earth element. And so it's bringing out more of the inherent challenges. But there's one last thing about Mars and Virgo that we didn't discuss yet, which is very, very important and which is not negative. So let's turn our attention to that. This fourth thing is the point that Mars is the planet of ambition, and Virgo is the sign of wealth, or acquisition of wealth, because it's about accounting, finance, organization, earth, practical things, wealth. The ambition of Mars actually can do pretty well in the wealth-oriented nature of Virgo. And this is the one asset that Mars in Virgo definitely has. It's the asset straight out of the box aspect. It's not dependent on being modified by any other condition. This is the baseline condition of Mars in Virgo, is that it has this going for it. The native will have an appetite for wealth, or they will have an appetite for things of value. So they will have appetite for cultural things. They'll have taste or their skill for mercurial things. So that will mean things which are cultured, things which are refined, things which are requiring intelligence and skill. So Mars in Virgo, they have an appetite for business, and they have a talent or aptitude for things that require skill. So they tend to be pretty good with arts. Now let's take a look at some actual human beings who have Mars and Virgo, of course focusing on well-known people. So here's a list. There's plenty of politicians. Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Princess Diana, Indira Gandhi, Mother Teresa, I would put her in that category, Napoleon, Jacques Chirac, and Ségolène Royal. Three French politicians at the end. Napoleon, Jacques Chirac, and Ségolène Royal. Forgive the bad French. Forgive my French. So why are we getting a lot of politicians? You're not getting Mao Zedong's and Mussolini's and Hitler's out of this, are you? You're getting the democratic type of politician. And this is because Mars is the leader or the order giver, and Virgo is the organizer of the management team. So under the right conditions, you can get Mars and Virgo producing a person that's very good at organizing how people function. And it would be in a mercurial way, which involves more tact than force. So although Mars on one hand is competition versus cooperation, on the other hand, Mars is leadership. Mars likes to give orders. It's a masculine planet. And Virgo knows how to organize groups. So this is one thing that I didn't quite mention explicitly on the list on the left of the screen. But there's another good synergy here between Mars and Virgo, which is that Mars likes to command and Virgo likes to organize. So you get good organizers with Mars and Virgo. team leaders. So it does work well in the chart of a politician. And let's take a look at a couple of these politicians more to see exactly why Mars and Virgo work that way for them. What else is it about their chart? So that's the first group. Then we have philosophers. Interesting type of philosopher. Helena Blavatsky and Friedrich Nietzsche. It's interesting what type of intellect this supports when Mars is in Virgo. Virgo is the intellectual sign. It belongs to Mercury, the intellect. Now when Mars goes in there, you get, in Nietzsche's case, a very materialistic, practical, kind of a hard, malefic type of philosophy. In Helena Blavatsky's case, I'm sure it's influenced by many other things in her chart besides Mars and Virgo, but you get kind of an opportunistic philosopher. Then you have two bad guys on the list. Charles Manson, Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar, an evil businessman, drug lord. Charles Manson, a big organizer. Then you have artists. Ernest Hemingway, Johnny Depp, Sylvester Stallone. Bruno Mars has Mars in Virgo. And Britney Spears, Tom York, Trent Reznor. It's easy to see musicians, artists with Mars in Virgo because that's what it was, the fourth item on the list. That the ambition and the wealth also gives a liking for objects of wealth, which means art. So a passion for arts comes along with having Mars in Virgo, and therefore an aptitude to get good at it. So let's take a look at more of the specifics of a couple of these charts. Let's start with Barack Obama. What is it about Barack Obama that makes him a politician? Is it mostly Mars and Virgo that's making Barack Obama a politician? Not really. The main thing in Barack Obama's case is Sun in Leo, which is very, very tightly aspecting his ascendant while making a Raja Yoga, by virtue of the fact that it's strongly aspecting Ketu, which is near his ascendant. So the rule there is that Rahu or Ketu in a Kona with a Kendra Lord makes a Raja Yoga, with or aspected by a Kendra Lord. So the first house is a Kona, it's a trine. Ketu is there, and it's getting aspected by the Sun, which is the Kendra Lord, angular Lord, the seventh house Lord. So this is putting a Raj Yoga on the ascendant in Aquarius from Leo using the Sun. Now you see why he's a leader, a king, a politician. If we look in some of these other politicians' charts that have good birth times that are well documented, there's some interesting trend that emerges. George Bush, Leo ascendant, and his first lord is with Saturn. Indira Gandhi, Leo ascendant, and Saturn is there in Leo. Jacques Chirac, Aquarius ascendant, and Saturn is there. So you see the pattern. It's these politicians that have Mars in Virgo. The Mars in Virgo is supplementing something else in the chart. What is it supplementing? It's this Aquarius Leo axis, which is being augmented by the Sun and or Saturn in all of these cases of these four politicians that we looked at. So this is what I mean by I'm teaching the basic interpretation of Mars in Virgo, but you have to modify this interpretation by the conditions of Mars and by the nature of the whole rest of the chart. In a chart of a person like Barack Obama with the Sun making a Raj Yoga on Aquarian ascendant from Leo, you're going to see a very strong leader, and Mars in Virgo is going to, blend with that. So the nature of it being a good organizer and a democratic kind of leader will blend with that. If we look at Charles Manson, on the other hand, how come it didn't make him Barack Obama? They both have Mars in Virgo. So why is Barack Obama and Charles Manson? Well, see, in Manson's case, what's really key in this chart is how close Rahu and Saturn are in his 10th house, Aquarius. So again, he's having a big political or social effect because it's in the Aquarius-Leo axis. But that axis is not lining up with the 1st and 7th house, rather it's with the 4th and the 10th. And Rahu is very close to Saturn and the Moon. So this is a classic combination for difficulty in a person, is to have Moon, Saturn, and Rahu, or Moon, Saturn, Ketu close together in one sign. So in that context, which is like, here's a very weird person. The Moon, Rahu, and Saturn in Aquarius in the 10th house. Here's an odd person who has a unusual effect on society. In that context, you have Mars in Virgo, and that's bringing out the thing of, yeah, he's intelligent for organizing teams, he's intelligent for organizing people, but he doesn't really get along. It's a cooperation versus competition thing. He doesn't really get along with people. All the more negative sides come out in his case because his chart has got this prominent, difficult condition. And if we look at one more person, Johnny Depp, why is he such an artist? What? Barack Obama has Mars in Virgo. Charles Manson has Mars in Virgo. They all probably have musical skill. In fact, I'm pretty sure they do. But how come they didn't make that their career? Why was something else more prominent? But in the case of Johnny Depp, you got an actor, or in the case of Bruno Mars, you get a great musician. Tom York. Well, any of these people. So, Johnny Depp's case, his first lord is in the 11th house, and the 11th house is Gemini. So that's the whole context of this chart, is that it's orienting towards entertainment and arts. The first lord is in the 11th house, Gemini. In that context, you have Mars in Virgo. Furthermore, the 11th lord is tight with Venus, and it's in the 10th house in Venus's sign. So his chart is super oriented towards performing art. In that context, Mars in Virgo gives him that potential of Mars in Virgo to really orient a person towards arts is what comes out. So that's hopefully making more clear what I mean about how you have to take the baseline interpretation of Mars in Virgo, sit it in the individual's chart, and see how it resonates with the main theme of the chart. Now, what we do in these videos with the planets and the signs is I show you a consistent technique that you can use for any planet and any sign. And the technique is very simple. You look for where the planet symbolizes something that's very, very similar to what the sign symbolizes. And once you find that, you assess whether or not the planet and the sign are harmonious about that thing, or whether they're antithetical about that thing. The dissonant resonance reveals what's complex or difficult for the native. The harmonious resonance, on the other hand, indicates what's easy, what comes natural, what's an inherent strength for the native. What I'm teaching you really is the method of how to do astrological interpretation by going down into the engine of the symbolism and comparing the parts. The actual interpretation that you should give is going to be individualized per the individual chart. So if you have person A with the moon in Scorpio and person B with the moon in Scorpio, it's not going to be exactly the same interpretation. Because person B's moon might have an aspect from something and person A's moon doesn't, etc., 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 etc. But what I'm showing you in the videos is the backbone of what a planet and a sign symbolizes. And once you understand that backbone, you modify it based on the circumstances, the extraneous circumstances that are affecting an individual chart. So I hope you really like this system, not just this one video, but all the videos that we do on the planets and the signs. We'll do them all. And I hope you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those. And I hope to see you around soon. Thank you.